In the heart of Colorado, deep inside the peaceful mountain town of Evergreen, there's a zoo unlike any other. The Evergreen Wildlife Sanctuary is known not for its size, nor for its modern enclosures, but for something far more rare, the deep, inexplicable bond between one of its oldest residents and a little girl who changed everything. This is not the kind of story you forget. It begins with a gorilla named Kumba. Kumba wasn't just any gorilla, he was a 350-pound silverback with a stare so deep, some say it felt like he could see straight into your soul. Brought to the sanctuary as a young adult after being rescued from an illegal animal trafficking ring in West Africa, Kumba had always been different. Quiet. Observant. Almost human. For years, he barely interacted with anyone. Not the zookeepers. Not the other animals. He sat in the shaded corner of his enclosure, day after day, as if waiting for something, or someone. Then, one spring afternoon, everything changed. A 7-year-old girl named Emily Johnson visited the sanctuary on a school trip. She was just another kid among dozens of loud, excited children. But when she reached Kumba's enclosure, something happened that no one could explain. She didn't scream. She didn't shout. She just stood there, staring at him. And Kumba stood too. He walked, slowly, deliberately, toward the glass wall that separated them, and he placed his hand on it. Emily, without hesitation, mirrored him. Their hands aligned. Two worlds, two species, two hearts, meeting in silence. From that moment on, Emily returned to see Kumba every Saturday. Rain or shine. Her parents thought it was cute at first. But what happened next, left them, and the entire zoo, speechless. Because months later, when Emily suddenly stopped coming, Kumba stopped eating. He wouldn't move. He wouldn't look at anyone. The mighty silverback gorilla, once feared and admired, was now a silent statue in his dark corner. And when keepers tried everything, different food, toys, even other animals, nothing worked. Until one desperate zookeeper tried something no one else had thought of. She brought a photo. And what happened when Kumba saw it, left the entire staff in tears. This is the story of a gorilla, a little girl, and the unbreakable bond that defied logic, distance, and even species. No one could quite explain what was happening between Kumba and Emily. The sanctuary staff began to take notice after her third visit. She would arrive early every Saturday, clutching her small sketchbook, walking past the lions, giraffes, and even the playful red pandas, straight to Kumba. And he was always waiting. Every week, Emily sat on the wooden bench just outside the viewing glass, drawing while Kumba watched. Sometimes, she'd show him her sketches, simple crayon pictures of trees, clouds, or Kumba himself. He would lean in, resting his massive head against the glass, eyes locked on hers, as if he understood every color. One afternoon, Emily traced a heart on the window with her finger. Kumba copied her. The keepers were stunned. Not just because it was unusual, Kumba had lived in silence for nearly a decade, but because of the gentleness in his eyes. There was no food involved, no reward, no conditioning. Just connection. Emily's parents, Sarah and Mark Johnson, were touched but cautious. They asked Dr. Karen Whitlow, the sanctuary's head primatologist, if this was normal. Karen, a woman with 20 years of experience studying gorilla behavior, simply shook her head. "I've never seen anything like this," she whispered. "It's not just recognition. It's emotional. It's like he sees her." For Kumba, Emily was more than a visitor. She was a presence, a calming light in a world that had been harsh and confusing. With her, he wasn't just a gorilla in a cage. He was something else. Something whole. But then, without warning, Emily stopped coming. The bench sat empty for days. Then weeks. Kumba waited, eyes fixed on the path she used to walk. He didn't eat. He didn't move. When staff approached, he turned away. The lively glint in his eyes faded into something hollow. And late one evening, keeper Maya Torres found him pressed against the glass again, staring at his own reflection. But he wasn't looking at himself. He was waiting for her. By the third week, Kumba had stopped responding to his name. Maya, who had worked with him for over 5 years, noticed the change first. He no longer reacted to the sound of the morning gate. No interest in his favorite mango slices. Not even a glance when she tried to coax him with enrichment puzzles he used to enjoy. Something was wrong. It's like he's grieving, Maya murmured during the staff meeting. He doesn't want to be here anymore. Karen Whitlow nodded, her expression tight with concern. Gorillas are emotional beings. But this level of withdrawal, it's unprecedented. The team tried everything. Music. Mirrors. Even playing back recordings of Emily's voice, which someone had captured during a school field trip video. Kumba looked up once. Just once. Then turned away, his shoulders sinking like heavy stone. Meanwhile, Maya grew restless. Why had Emily stopped coming? She asked around, checked the zoo's visitor registry, even tried calling the local school. No one had answers. Her name had vanished from the sign-in sheets after April 12th. Just gone. It wasn't until Maya spoke with the front desk clerk that a clue finally surfaced. There was an email, the clerk said, scrolling through old correspondence. From her mother. Said something about an emergency. That Emily wouldn't be visiting for a while. An emergency? The word hit Maya like ice. Her mind spun with possibilities. An illness? A family move? Something worse? That night, she sat alone in the keeper's office, staring at the monitor connected to the security camera pointed at Kumba's enclosure. He hadn't moved in over an hour. Just sat there, facing the glass, his hand resting exactly where Emily's used to be. And then, something unexpected happened. He turned his head. Very slowly. And looked directly into the camera. It wasn't just a glance. It was deliberate. Focused. As if he knew someone was watching. As if he was asking. Where is she? The next morning, Maya made a decision. She needed to find Emily. Not just for Kumba. But because something about this bond, they all felt it now, was bigger than they understood. Maya couldn't stop thinking about the look in Kumba's eyes. It haunted her during her drive home, echoed in her dreams, and gnawed at her every time she walked past the empty bench outside his enclosure. She couldn't shake the feeling. Kumba knew something was wrong. With a bit of digging and the help of a friend who worked at the local elementary school, Maya was able to track down an address. She debated whether to go, whether it was even appropriate, but her gut told her this wasn't just about curiosity. This was about saving Kumba. She arrived at the Johnsons' house on a quiet Sunday morning. A modest 2-story home nestled among pine trees, with a yellow tricycle tipped over on the porch. Maya rang the bell. It took a while, but eventually, the door creaked open. Sarah Johnson stood there, eyes tired, her face pale. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. Yes, she asked cautiously. I work at the Evergreen Wildlife Sanctuary, Maya said. I'm one of the zookeepers. I'm here because, it's about Kumba. At the mention of his name, Sarah's expression shifted. Her eyes filled with something between surprise and sorrow. She opened the door wider. Inside, the house was eerily quiet. A blanket lay crumpled on the couch, children's books stacked beside a half-empty mug of cold tea. On the wall was a framed drawing, crayon lines in the shape of a gorilla and a little girl holding hands. She misses him, Sarah said softly, sitting down. Every single day. Is Emily okay? Maya asked. There was a long pause. Then Sarah's voice cracked. She was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, just a few weeks after her last visit. It hit fast. She's been in and out of the children's hospital in Denver ever since. Maya's heart sank. That explained everything. The silence. The email. The sudden disappearance. But what she hadn't expected was the next part. "She barely speaks anymore," Sarah whispered. "She stopped talking right around the time we told her she couldn't visit Kumba. It's like, when we took that away, something in her shut off." The room went quiet. And then, from the hallway, came a soft voice. "Is Kumba okay?" Maya turned. There stood Emily. Thinner than before. Pale. A knit cap over her head where hair used to be. But her eyes, those same bright, thoughtful eyes, were locked on Maya's, waiting for an answer. And Maya, holding back tears, smiled gently. "He misses you," she said. Emily nodded once. "Me too." Maya didn't sleep that night. She kept thinking about Emily's quiet voice. The way she said, "Me too." Like part of her had been left behind at the zoo, sitting on that wooden bench with a sketchbook and a silent gorilla behind glass. By morning, she had made a decision. She drove straight to the sanctuary and marched into Dr. Whitlow's office. "I want to take Kumba to visit her," she said. Karen blinked. "To the hospital? He's fading, Karen. We both know it. He doesn't eat, he barely moves, and nothing we do is reaching him." "But Emily, she might." There was a long pause. Then Karen leaned back in her chair. "You realize what you're asking, right? Transporting a full-grown silverback? To a hospital? That's a logistical nightmare. Liability. Stress. Permits. He could panic. He could. He won't," Maya said firmly. "He knows her. He trusts her. I know it." Karen rubbed her temples, thinking. "We can't just put him in the back of a truck and hope for the best. No. But maybe we can bring Emily to him." Karen hesitated. That option seemed slightly more possible, though still complicated. "She's immunocompromised," Maya added. "We can't expose her to risk. But, if we isolate Kumba, sanitize the space, maybe set up a temporary observation room, she wouldn't even need to touch him. Just see him." There was a silence between them. Then Karen finally spoke. "I'll make some calls." Later that day, Maya returned to the Johnsons' house with an idea. When Emily heard it, her eyes lit up, not with excitement exactly, but with something deeper. Something like hope. They would bring her back to the sanctuary. But this time, it would be different. The zoo arranged for a special medical transport vehicle, fully equipped, climate-controlled, and approved by the hospital. A safe, private path was cleared through the sanctuary, leading to a small side door of Kumba's enclosure where he could be temporarily moved to a clean, isolated glass area. One he hadn't entered in years. It took days to prepare. But when everything was finally ready, Emily sat in the transport van with her mother, dressed in a mask and protective gown, holding her sketchbook tightly in her lap. As they pulled through the zoo gates, past the signs, past the curious stares of staff and volunteers, Kumba was already waiting by the glass. The van came to a gentle stop near the back entrance of the sanctuary. Emily's heartbeat was racing. Her small hands clutched her sketchbook so tightly her knuckles turned white. She hadn't seen him in over 2 months. As the sliding door opened, a breeze swept in carrying the distant sounds of animals and rustling leaves. Emily stepped out slowly, supported by her mother and a nurse. The air smelled like pine, fresh hay, and something warm. Familiar. Just around the corner was the viewing area Maya and the staff had carefully prepared. Kumba had been guided into the smaller, glass-walled room hours earlier. He hadn't protested. He simply went, as if he knew. As Emily approached the glass, her breath caught in her throat. There he was. Massive. Still. His dark fur slightly grayer, his posture heavy, but his eyes, those deep, soulful eyes were the same. And they found her instantly. He stood. Not abruptly, not with alarm, but with purpose. He stepped forward, one hand slowly rising, and placed it against the glass. Emily let out a soft gasp. Then, without looking away, she lifted her own hand, frail, trembling, wrapped in a sterile glove, and pressed it against his. The room went silent. No one dared speak. Not Maya. Not Sarah. Not the zoo staff standing at a respectful distance, watching through monitors. It wasn't just a reunion. It was a homecoming. Kumba's eyes softened. His chest rose and fell in slow, steady breaths. Emily smiled, small, but real, and pulled out her sketchbook. She opened to a fresh page and began to draw. First a tree. Then a cloud. Then a big, gentle gorilla with eyes like shadows and warmth. Kumba didn't move. He watched her every stroke, his face close to the glass, as still as a statue but entirely alive. When she held the drawing up to show him, he leaned in, so close his breath fogged the glass. And then, using a bit of fruit from earlier, he reached down, scooped some up with his massive finger, and drew a circle on the glass. Emily's favorite shape. Her eyes filled with tears. Not from sadness. From something else. Relief. Connection. Healing. Behind her, Sarah covered her mouth, struggling to stay quiet. Even Maya, tough, composed Maya, felt her vision blur. Because for the first time in weeks, Kumba looked like himself again. And for the first time in months, Emily laughed. A small, bright sound. One that made the gorilla tilt his head, eyes twinkling, like he was trying to remember it forever. From that day on, something shifted, both in Emily and in Kumba. The hospital approved limited weekly visits, under strict supervision. Every Friday morning, Emily would return to the sanctuary in the transport van, sketchbook in hand, eyes already searching for him before the wheels had even stopped turning. And Kumba was always there. Waiting. He started eating again. Slowly at first, then ravenously, like a dam inside him had broken. Mangoes, apples, even those banana leaf bundles he used to ignore. His strength began to return, along with his spark. But perhaps the most remarkable change was Emily herself. The nurses noticed it immediately. She spoke more. Smiled more. Even started asking questions about other animals. Her doctors, stunned, reported small but steady improvements in her white cell count. The treatment still exhausted her, but after each visit to the sanctuary, she seemed to bounce back faster. Sarah watched her daughter come back to life week by week. And it was because of a gorilla. The sanctuary staff, once skeptical, had now fully embraced the miracle unfolding before them. Dr. Whitlow began documenting everything, every gesture, every glance, every drawing Emily showed Kumba and his reaction to it. "I've studied primates for over 2 decades, she told a visiting journalist one afternoon, but this is not just science. This is soul." Meanwhile, Maya stayed close to both of them, acting as the silent bridge between their worlds. She kept a private journal, recording moments too delicate to share publicly. Like the way Kumba sometimes tapped the glass gently with his knuckles after Emily left, as if asking for one more minute. Or how Emily began drawing 2 hearts on the glass before leaving. One for her. One for him. One Friday, as Emily packed up her drawings, she looked up at Maya and asked, "Can he keep one?" Maya hesitated. "We can't exactly give him paper, he might eat it." Emily smiled and shook her head. She pressed the drawing flat against the glass. It was a sketch of her and Kumba sitting side by side under a tree. Then she stepped back, leaving it there. Kumba approached. And instead of pulling it down or ignoring it, he stared. And stared. Then, gently, he sat down right in front of it. The drawing stayed there all night. The keepers found him the next morning, still sitting, still watching. Because now, he had something to hold on to. Just like Emily did. Just when it seemed like everything was finally turning around, the call came. It was early on a Tuesday morning when Maya's phone rang. She recognized the number. It was from the Children's Hospital in Denver. Her chest tightened before she even answered. Emily's had a setback, the nurse said gently. She spiked a fever overnight. Her immune system is too weak to fight it off right now. She's in isolation. Maya didn't speak. Couldn't. We're doing everything we can, the nurse added. But, she won't talk to anyone. The only thing she keeps asking is if Kumba's okay. By the time Maya arrived at the sanctuary that morning, Kumba had already sensed something. He wasn't by the glass. He was curled in the corner of his habitat again, still, quiet, his food untouched. It was like he felt her absence. Again. Maya paced the staff hallway, torn between helplessness and resolve. The team watched silently, uncertain what to do. No enrichment worked. No favorite treats helped. Kumba had slipped back into a silence that chilled everyone to the bone. Then Maya remembered something. Emily's drawing. The one she had left on the glass the week before, the one with the tree, the girl, and the gorilla side by side. She found it in the staff archive box. It had been taken down during cleaning and gently preserved, per Emily's request. Maya brought it back, carefully laminated it, and placed it exactly where it had been before. Hours passed. Nothing. Then, just before sundown, Kumba moved. He rose slowly, walked across the enclosure, and sat in front of the glass. His eyes found the drawing immediately. He stared at it for a long, aching moment. Then, ever so gently, he lifted one hand and traced the heart Emily had drawn. Maya captured the moment on camera. And later that night, after much thought, she sent the image to Sarah. When Emily saw it, weak, wrapped in hospital blankets, her breath labored, she smiled. A real smile. And for the first time in days, she whispered, "Tell him I'm still here." Sarah leaned in. "Do you want to draw him something?" Emily nodded faintly. With trembling fingers, she picked up a crayon and began to sketch. It wasn't her usual colorful drawing. It was a single circle, carefully drawn in thick, soft strokes. And underneath it, she wrote, "For Kumba. Always." Days passed. Emily remained in the hospital, her body fragile, her energy fading, but that drawing never left her side. It hung beside her bed, taped to the wall, facing her like a promise she wasn't ready to break. And at the sanctuary, Kumba waited. He returned to the glass every morning. He'd sit in silence, eyes scanning the path where Emily used to appear. Sometimes, he would trace the same circle on the glass. Again and again. A quiet ritual. A message only the two of them truly understood. Maya visited Emily often. She became the messenger between them, bringing photos, short videos of Kumba sitting by the glass, small updates about his behavior. But it wasn't enough. Not for Emily. Not for Kumba. One evening, Maya received a call from Sarah. Her voice was steady, but laced with something deeper. Grief. Or maybe, acceptance. "She's asking to see him," Sarah said softly. "One more time." Maya felt her chest tighten. "Do the doctors?" "They've approved it. Just one last visit. They say, it's safe. But we need to do it tomorrow. She might not be strong enough after that. Maya hung up and drove to the sanctuary in silence, the weight of finality pressing on her like a storm cloud. By morning, the staff had cleared the path, disinfected the space, and prepped the glass room once again. The laminated drawing was still there, Emily's tree, the circle, and the message, "For Kumba. Always." Then the van arrived. Emily was too weak to walk this time. A nurse gently wheeled her toward the enclosure, her small frame bundled in blankets, eyes half-lidded with exhaustion. But when Kumba saw her, he moved like he hadn't in weeks. He stood, walked toward the glass, not with urgency, but with reverence. Each step measured. Heavy. Real. He lowered himself until his eyes met hers, level through the barrier. Emily lifted her hand, though it trembled. Kumba mirrored her. And for a long, still moment, they just looked at each other. No sound. No movement. Just presence. Then Emily whispered something. It was too soft for anyone to hear. Even Maya leaned in, trying to catch it. But she didn't need to. Because Kumba reacted. He placed both hands on the glass. His head lowered. His shoulders curled inward, like he was folding into himself, carrying a weight that couldn't be spoken. A quiet tear slipped down Sarah's cheek. And then, as if drawn by instinct, Emily held up her final drawing. A heart. Inside it, a circle. Kumba pressed his forehead to the glass. He didn't move again for hours. Because in that moment, the space between them wasn't glass. It was love. Emily passed away 5 days later. It was a quiet morning. Peaceful. She was asleep, surrounded by her family. The drawing she had made for Kumba was still taped to the wall, the circle inside the heart just above her head. Sarah held her hand until the very end. No one at the sanctuary said anything publicly at first. There was no announcement. No signs. Just a quiet understanding among the staff that something had ended, something sacred. Maya was the one who told Kumba. She didn't speak the words aloud. She didn't have to. She simply entered the enclosure that morning, carrying Emily's final sketch, now framed in soft wood. She placed it gently against the glass, in the exact spot Emily had always sat. Kumba approached slowly. He looked at the drawing. Then at Maya. Then back at the glass. He didn't react the way she expected. He didn't retreat. Didn't howl. Didn't rage. He simply sat. And for the next several hours, he didn't move. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the Colorado mountains and the last beams of light poured through the pine trees, Kumba did something he'd never done before. He turned away from the glass, and walked to the center of his enclosure. There, beneath a small tree planted years ago as part of a habitat restoration project, he sat down. Calm. Still. Present. The staff began to notice something over the weeks that followed. Kumba had changed, but not in the way they feared. He wasn't fading. He was honoring. He resumed his daily routines. Ate again. Moved again. But every afternoon, like clockwork, he would return to that framed drawing on the glass, sit for a while, and rest his hand exactly where Emily used to place hers. Visitors came and went. Most never noticed the quiet ritual. But those who stayed long enough, they saw. And they felt it. Maya made sure the story lived on. Not in headlines, not on signs, but in quiet conversations, in the hearts of volunteers, and in a small plaque beside the tree in Kumba's enclosure. It read, "She saw him. And he never forgot." Years passed. And though Emily's voice never echoed again through the zoo, her presence never truly left. Because sometimes, the most extraordinary stories aren't about what we say. but about who we choose to sit beside. Even if there's glass between us.